Hey, what is up, Warriors? It's the Quadfather here, and I'm happy to be here today because I learned some really cool stuff today that I think we're going to be able to apply to Call of Duty and also to the rest of your life. Today, I learned how to improve your skills in video games and everything you do in your life because I went to a conference and heard a famous neuropsychiatrist by the name of Dr. Daniel Amen. Now you can Google him, you can check him out on YouTube. He's pretty famous. He has lots of different books. And I was sitting there listening to him today and I thought, you know what? All of this stuff applies to becoming a better player at Call of Duty and also life. So real quick, I got to give you a 20-second neuro-brain psychology lesson. Okay, first of all, brain development continues until we are 25 years old. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that people under 25 are stupid? No. Well, depends on who you ask. But no, that was not the point of the lesson today. It was that the part of our brain that continues to grow and develop is that part, if you hit yourself in the forehead, just tap yourself in the forehead, it's that part right under there that continues to develop until you're 25 years old. Well, what does that part of the brain control? That is the key. That part is the cerebral cortex. That's the last part of our brain to develop, and it's the part of our brain that allows us to predict the outcomes of our current behaviors. Okay, so it's the way that we predict future things. Okay, now we can all do that to a certain degree, but you can't do it as well at 20, at 15, as well as you can at 25 years old. So now, why is that important? Why is that even relevant to Call of Duty? Well, predicting future outcomes of current behavior is really, really important in Call of Duty, right? I mean, if you knew what you were going to get when you spawned or ran around a corner or picked a certain gun or any of those things, you would be a much, much better at Call of Duty, right? I mean, that's why people watch videos. They want to get the tips and tricks. And, well, the tips and tricks I'm bringing you today are tips and tricks you ain't going to get from any other channel. This is how to work on the rest of your life so that you can be better at Call of Duty. I mean, we've all had streaks where we've gone on amazing, game after game. And we're like, wow, I'm doing so good. And then for some reason, it just kind of goes away. Well, if you follow some of these tips and tricks I have for you today, I think that you will get better not only at Call of Duty, but at other parts of life. Because we live in real life also. It's not just a Call of Duty virtual world, right? So in our real lives, he was talking today, he was saying that, we ought to practice thinking ahead. We ought to practice waiting a couple minutes, couple seconds before we do something or act rashly or say something because, especially with words, you can never take back words. You can't unsay things. And believe me, there are many times that I wish I could pull those words right out of the air. If I would have just waited and practiced thinking ahead, I would have saved myself a lot of difficulty. But really the question is how, right? How do we do these things? How do we practice this? Well, number one is Dr. Amen said, you have to ask the question, then what? Okay, so if I do this, if I say that, if I behave this way, then what's going to happen? Because when I was younger, I thought, I can figure out that if I do this thing or that thing, it's not going to be the best for me, but it's not going to happen to me, or maybe the rules didn't apply because, I'm kind of special that way. At least that was my thinking. So if I say this thing, then what? What's going to happen? I mean, we all think crazy, weird thoughts that really nobody else should hear. And if you just run out, blurt them out, and don't think about what you're saying or the impact of what you're saying, I think you're going to have a lot of arguments with teachers, friends, girlfriends, all those things. We really have to learn how to edit your thoughts. So that's tip number one. Ask yourself, then what? Okay. Number two, ask, what do I want? What do I want to hire KD? Do I want to just have a good time playing with my friends? For me, Black Ops 2 is something that is really more of a solo venture, whereas MW3, if I just want to hang out and talk and chill and be part of a big team, then I go to MW3 because that is much more of a team game. So what do you want? And how does the choices I'm making get me closer to what I want, or does it? I mean, if I'm just running around every corner and spawning and trying to get capture B all the time, if I'm trying to get a high KD, that's not going to help me, right? Or if I'm trying to be in shape, does that banana split really fit into that plan? You know, so what is it that I want? So number 2, what do I want? Number 3 is we have to make decisions today based on what we want for our future. Okay, so that's kind of like number 2, but really you got to have a long-term plan. Where do you want to go? I mean, the best grades I ever got in school was the semester I decided to hang out with the quote-unquote nerdy or people who really, really focused on their studies, because I always thought those folks, they didn't have as much fun and they weren't as much fun to be around. But if I was trying to get into grad school to get my master's degree at the time, so I thought I'm going to hang out with the smart guys. And guess what? Our conversations were still as interesting. I still laughed as much, but I got better grades because I was hanging out with those people, and those people actually focused on schoolwork. So I asked myself, what do I want, and how do the decisions I make today impact me in the future? So what do you want out of Call of Duty? If you want to get high kill streaks, you know, how do the decisions that you're making apply to or get you any closer to getting your high kill streaks or having a better KD or a win-loss ratio? Okay, so now how do we do this? And here is the trick of the whole thing. And I'm gonna rush through these here because I only got a minute or so. Okay, so if you follow these simple things, you'll get better at everything, including Call of Duty. Okay, because these tips will make your mind and your brain and your body much better. And everybody knows it's the clearer your brain is, the clearer your mind is, the better you will perform at Call of Duty and at everything else. Okay, number 1, avoid crazy people. Man, there are so many people who are going to drain your energy and not give you positive feedback. They're just going to bring drama into your life. I don't want to say girls, but sometimes girls and sometimes guys. Sometimes they're this really, really hard to be around. So who you hang around does matter. I'm not trying to pick your friends, but just pay attention if there are crazy people around. So I suggest you find the healthiest or wisest person that you can stand to be around and hang out some with them. It doesn't always have to be, you know, the most fun. Okay, number 2, and I'm sure you guys hear this from your parents, but it really is true. Eat right. Take vitamins. Get your protein, things like that. That's going to make you sharper. If you're an athlete, if video games is an athletic endeavor, you know, and it is because you have hand-eye coordination and fast twitch muscle reflexes, then you got to eat right. You got to take care of yourself. Also get some exercise. I mean, Dr. Amen suggested, you know, walk 45 minutes every day. He said 3 times a week, but I'll say for you guys every day. Like you're late to something. Okay, so really get a little bit of exercise. He didn't say run a marathon or anything. So you get your food, you get your exercise, and of course sleep at least 7 to 8 hours a night. Now teenagers need a lot more. Actually, it's pretty documented. But all of those things work together will give you a healthy brain, and a healthy brain will help you have a higher KD. It'll help you be sharper when you're playing the game. It'll help you be sharper in life. It'll help you be sharper in your relationships. So I hope these tips helped you out. Hope they're unique, and I hope you can apply them. And I will see if I don't die.